Welcome to the Late Reg podcast with me, Brian Rast, and my compatriot, Phil Laak. We're here because nobody regs on time anymore, just like we're the last podcast in the world because everybody's already done it. So thank you for joining us. With us today, we have Elliot Roe. Elliot has had an amazing kind of run. Now, listen, I started working with Elliot, I believe, over 10 years ago.
Yeah.
With, what he does, which we'll get into in depth in the podcast, helping me with mental aspects of my poker game. But Elliot helps more than just poker players and, has had a really interesting journey to get where he is. So welcome to the show, Elliot.
Hey, thanks guys so much for having me on.
Awesome. Rast, you're gonna lead a little because you've already done
Sure.
some work.
So why don't you just kind of describe for everybody, kind of what it is that, you do in your words.
Yeah, so I'm a mindset and performance coach. For the last, I think now 15 years or so, I've been helping high performers in different industries reach the top of their game by overcoming mindset issues, self-sabotage, fear of failure, fear of success, helping them perform better in high pressure situations. The modality that I use is predominantly hypnotherapy and regression-based hypnotherapy. So a lot of the time, the work that I'm doing is helping someone understand the program that's causing them issues by working through memories in their past that have created that program, that anxiety, that stress. So we're utilizing hypnotherapy, which is, it's not like the stage shows, there's no magic, there's no passing out, but it's like a guided meditation that makes the subconscious more dominant than the conscious mind. And when we're in that state, it can bring up these memories that can show us why we've created these programs that are holding us back. And I'm just doing that in a large number of different industries, helping people try and become number one in the world.
So yeah, actually that leads me to one of the few questions that I kind of had. You actually got into it a little bit there, but could you describe maybe in even greater detail, both I'm curious about it, but then I think people like you kind of touched, obviously it's not the way people normally think of like stage hypnosis or whatever, but how in more detail does that process work? Because I mean, I can say, we've worked together for a long time and I do feel a difference, but describe it to me so I can understand it in even more depth.
So what you're looking to do is to take the client to a state of effectively meditation. So when you're doing traditional mindfulness meditation, what you're doing is you're getting yourself very relaxed. You go through some kind of body scan exercise where you're relaxing through your body, and then you'll clear your mind. And as a thought comes in, you bring yourself back to your breath. And that's the process of mindfulness meditation. With hypnotherapy, we're looking to use that same deep meditative state, but instead of just bringing yourself back to your breath, we're utilizing that state to focus in on a particular issue or emotion that's coming up. So if we say we get to that state and then we're focusing in on anxiety. So, I mean, for the poker audience, I think my favorite example of this, because it just comes up over and over again, is a cash game player who, when they get 3-bet by the same player at the table, it spikes either their anxiety or their aggression. So I have a lot of guys who really struggle with this. Hey, if the same guy keeps 3-betting me, I feel this way, I get too anxious, I get too angry, whatever it is. As we dig into that emotion through that process in that trance-like state, and I say, okay, when else have you felt this way? When else have you felt this way? That particular issue almost always leads to bullying problems in school. Like just over and over again, it brings up memories of being bullied. We go back to those memories and then we reframe them. So that memory of being 7-year-old you, and I'm 7 years old, this boy's beating me up, I'm terrified. For 7-year-old you, that was life and death and a terrifying situation. For 40-year-old you, it's 2 7-year-olds having a fight. So you go back to the 7-year-old self, you give him a hug, you talk him through the situation, you turn that memory from a life and death memory to something that you can laugh about and something that you've processed. And then when the player goes back to the poker table again, instead of something that's triggering them, the 3-betting is just something to adjust to. And it's that sort of same process for all of these different areas of life. But effectively, it's just allowing the subconscious to become dominant, and then it will show us the pathway to the excessive emotion that's coming up.
That's interesting because about, 100 years ago, Rast and I were in Macau, and I remember this European player, Swedish maybe, I don't remember, but every time I came into a pot, I felt like, damn, he just 3-bets me. And then at dinner, I was like frustrated, and Rast reminded me, just remember, there's just a beautiful solution of that. Play less hands, and when he 3-bets you, go ballistic. Even if that means you've opened with 8-9 of clubs, but your VPIP has been very, very narrow bound. And I started doing that, and it felt so good. I was like, "All right, this is how you do it. You just tighten up, and then bam back." And then I remember one time with Antonio, like around, I don't know, around 18 years ago or something, like in the first 2 years of poker, we were sometimes at the same table pretty often, but it would happen. And I would come in and he would raise. And there was one time where I said, not only am I going to do this strategy, which I had done earlier than the Macau trip, but I said, Antonio, here's the deal. It's annoying me that you won't let me look at a flop. So here's my new playbook. I'm going to let you know the playbook. When I enter a pot, if you raise me, I'm going all in. That's what you have to work with. Now, I knew I could tell him the strategy face up because he can't resist himself. And I knew I was going to tighten it up a little bit. So then it started happening, like ace, jack, hearts, race. Oh, re-raise, all in. And, none of this stuff was GTO perfect or anything. It was just like, and then I would show each time. Like, and I said, I'll show you. Sometimes it's going to be 5, 6 of clubs. And there was like a hand like that. And then he finally realized, wow, I'd like to look at some flops too. If Bill enters a pot, he knows even if it's wrong for me to do it, I'm just going to do it. I had great success for like the 3 hours or 2 hours it took to get that lesson down. But yeah, sometimes
he never just woke up with 9s and 3-bet called it off or something, or like 8s. Or
no, he just got. He never had a hand. No one gets a hand, But I was like getting a few of them, and it was just a funny thing. But I like what Elliot said about it brings back the bullying stuff because, like, yeah, you would strategically, not that I was bullied too much, but when I knew the guys that were bulliers, so you would, like re-strategize through the hallway to avoid them because those are the thug guys that like mess with everyone, whatever. And in poker, it's the same sort of thing. You're like, this guy, if I already pre-telegraph something that he's going to do something, sometimes I do non-strategic, non-GTO. I just go, all right, I'm just going to go ape shit. I hope I have a hand. And I always look and pretend, but sometimes it's not a hand at all. And it's like weird. If you pre-clock who you think is going to do something, you can often, but that works at the bike with hapless players. It probably is not going to work against Stephen Chidwick and stuff like that, But I like the bullying thing because it's like, yeah, the way I adjusted to that was to think it out, to have a map before it happens, as it's happening,
I'm sure, Elliot, I know you've worked with a lot of different poker players, and even at this point, if I'm correct, there's like people who work for you who then also work. Yes.
Yeah.
That's what happens when you do a really good job and get very successful. The price goes up. But but no, congrats. I wanted to segue that into, it's one of these things where I think when you first tell people, there is like a little bit of skepticism, but I think once it's, you explain kind of what's happening, it's really not that mystical, sort of like, and, I can just say without getting into too much, but like my bigger issue that Elliot helped me with was mostly just around focus. And, it's, you get in that suggestive state and it then later when you're there executing and playing, it just feels like these things that were discussed during the session or whatever are just like very available for you. Like they're kind of in your active memory and you're reminded to do it. And it makes it more likely that that I was going to focus, and like the table's the only thing that exists, blah, 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 some other certain things that you say that I still remember. So yeah, it's really kind of interesting how our brains work and sort of how powerful they are with what we're doing, how they can set us back, how we can overcome it, everything.
Yeah. So, the way that I like to describe it is we learn fears very effectively in childhood because it's a good evolutionary tool. So, you think about thousands of years ago, you're out in the jungle, mom sees a tiger, she starts screaming because there's a tiger and she panics. It's very useful for that child to then learn to be scared of tigers moving forward. And we're effectively doing the same thing in the modern world. So the bully becomes the tiger. So if I feel this aggression, if I see this aggression, this is a dangerous thing, I should be going into a fight or flight response. And that's what was happening in that situation at the poker table. And as you said, there's not really much mysticism about this. It's an effective way to keep people alive, is to learn these fears. They're just not so useful in the modern world. And hypnotherapy seems to be a very easy way to get back to those core memories and then reprogram and change those. And yeah, I've seen it. I mean, certainly in poker, it's been the most ludicrous run I could have ever imagined over the last 15 years, and the way things have gone with my clients playing in the poker world. It's been, an exceptional journey, to say the least. And I've just seen over and over again, as a player can resolve these emotional issues and let go of their anxiety, improve their focus, even things like study habits and letting go of procrastination, their results dramatically change at the table. And it's been fun to watch.
Not to break the flow too much, but like when an origin story, sort of like, were you just doing regular career stuff, whatever that might have been, had a hurdle to overcome, used hypnotherapy with some other person, realized, wow, this is great, I need to spread the love? What was the like seminal switch point, or were you just always into this? Like what?
No. So mine was completely different. So I was working initially in investment properties. And then 2008 happened. I started working in renewable energy investments, and I had a fear of flying, like a very significant fear of flying. So I would fly short haul flights. I wouldn't fly long haul because of the level of stress that it caused me. And like even short haul, like it would ruin the vacation. So I would fly, I'd be terrified that I was getting back on a plane. It didn't make any sense to me because I knew that it was safe. Someone recommended a hypnotherapist, and I was as skeptical as everyone else is as they hear about hypnotherapy. I was just like, yeah, okay. And I went to her, and she went through the process I've just described to you. So, hey, how do you feel when you're on a plane? It was like, okay, I'm feeling panic, scared. It feels like it's life and death. Okay, when else have you felt this way? And it brought up some memories of being on a plane. So turbulence situation, things like that. And then it brought up a much earlier memory of being at my granddad's house and being shown a picture of a small plane and being told it had crashed and killed his business partner. And that was me as a small child seeing this. She then worked through that memory with me, and I felt just a complete shift in my fear of flying. I didn't feel scared of flying anymore. What was interesting to me is it wasn't a conscious memory. And when I spoke to my parents next, I said, hey, this memory came up in a hypnotherapy session. Was this real? And they told me it did happen. So I had this memory I wasn't aware of that completely explained an irrational life and death fear of flying. And it was resolved. And then after that, I could fly without any stress. So I now live in America. I'd never live in America with the way that I felt around flying. And because of that, I was just like, this is so interesting. I'm going to learn this. And I was thinking I was going to do it as a hobby and continue in the investment world. And just eventually it just became too much fun. And I decided to make the jump and do this full time. And ironically, this has been doing the thing that you love has been more successful than sort of looking for money in investments.
Yeah, that's wild.
It's the most interesting thing about that is just how a very small thing, like it's not like you were even
in the plane,
a plane that had crazy turbulence and you hung onto it. It was like this thing, this friend of your dad or business partner of your dad rather, and just being told that somehow had this impact and you couldn't even remember it.
Yeah.
But it had this like very strong, mental impact on your brain. And
I'd just been taught that something was life and death.
Do some hypnotherapists find some clients difficult to get into a state of, recalling past memories, and some it's just, this is a layup customer?
I mean, there's certainly different levels of suggestibility. And for some people, it's more difficult than others. It's extremely rare for me to struggle with getting someone to the memories. Certainly when it comes to stage hypnosis and that kind of suggestibility, it's a very small percentage of people who are going to be good candidates for stage hypnosis, because it's like behaving in a different way. When it comes to this bringing up the memories, so long as there's a physical sensation that comes with the emotion, it's very easy to guide the person back because your subconscious knows where that's coming from. So in my case there, I have a very visceral reaction to getting on a plane. And because of that, my subconscious understood why it was creating that. It was like the bell was ringing. It was, hey, this is because of this memory in your past. For the poker players who it's the 3-bet is the situation, oftentimes they're really feeling that in their body. When that guy keeps 3-betting them, their heart is racing. They are feeling either the anxiety or they're feeling that anger and that frustration. And again, they'll be like, I'm feeling hot. I'm feeling stressed. Again, their subconscious knows where that's coming from. So it's quite easy to guide them back to that place. If someone's extremely neutral and they don't have any physical sensation around it, it can take a little bit more work. But that's quite rare, because usually the biggest issues do have some kind of elevated heart rate, some kind of pressure, some type of feeling in their body, and then you can trace it back quite easily.
It is interesting. I want to add this, that last night, every once in a while, if I'm procrastinating, I'll watch how to not procrastinate videos. And I wasn't really in that mode, but I was looking for things for our discussion today. And I stumbled on this woman and she nailed it. I was like, wow, this girl. She said, the reason why you keep procrastinating is, and this just resonated with me, is once you find the soothing, like, let's suppose you want to do something in the office, but then you're playing the video game. Well, you have you need to attack this thing, but now you're self-soothing and your body is getting all these positive experiences. Your dopamine you're like, and now your brain's just tricked you into, when you procrastinate, you get that self-soothing satisfaction.
You feel good.
All good. You know, it's like, she nailed it there. Cause like sometimes I will really need to do something, but when I'm in my distracted mode, I get that soothing, like, okay, I'm good.
I'm good now. Yeah.
Like, is it that you feel even better than normal doing this other activity?
No, I want to do the other stuff. It's the crazy
Yeah.
thing is, when the stuff I want to do that sometimes I procrastinate on, I prefer to do more than the things that I'm distracting or procrastinating, the activities I'm procrastinating in. I'm like, why am I even doing this? I've played enough of this game, like whatever it is. I get, it just, and she just cracked the whole thing open, which I've heard a million times. It's so true. The trick is to start. It doesn't matter if it's like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, you go to the office and you do the simplest little thing, you get the teeniest little bit of momentum. And that is like the whole hack to, to just start.
I know something that helps for me ultimately is like, I make these lists, like I use Trello, and there is like a good feeling whenever I just like remove something from the list. It's like I get the dopamine hit from it. So it can be helpful to put like
simple
tasks, like go to the gym today or like whatever, you put it on there. So then once you're ticking stuff off, then you just like want to keep going, you know?
I don't know.
Collect your gold stars.
Yeah, eat fruit.
Exactly.
That's one that I sometimes put on a list, like eat fruit, because I'll see the bananas. I buy the bananas, but the game is eat the banana before it turns brown, because it's a 3-day game. You're playing with the banana, you know?
It's like avocados.
Wait, hold on. Bringing it back. So we kind of got in, like how you got in and you started into it, but then we got sidetracked. But so then how did this build into
to poker and everything? So then
well, not even before poker, right? Because I randomly, and I maybe we can verify this, I like in a sauna ran into Daniel Wojcicki, and somehow you came up and said he was like one of your first clients or someone you even tried it out on. So like, how did you get like, okay, I'm doing hypnotherapy to cure my flight, but now I'm going to do it on other people.
So I started, I was back in the UK, and I was doing it in the background. So outside of work, I was doing this for fun. So I was helping people with their fears, and I started working with some local amateur golfers, and I was seeing a difference in their play and specifically their putting. So focus under pressure. And one of my friends worked in the poker industry, and in the TV industry in poker. And she said, hey, if you can help golfers under high stress, maybe at final tables, you might be able to help poker players. And I didn't have any background in poker at all. So because I'd heard this from someone in the industry, and I thought, that makes sense. I thought, okay, I'm going to start offering this to poker players. And I moved to Las Vegas with my wife. She got offered a job there, and I decided, okay, I'm going to give hypnotherapy a full 100% go. And I went on 2+2, and I just offered free sessions to poker players. And he was one of the ones.
Wait, Daniel Wojcicki, the kid that used to play at the Win. I know. Wow.
No, I know you know him too, Phil.
Yeah. So he was sort of very, very, very early on. And I just did a load of free sessions with poker players over those years. And then at the same time, I went to some of the UFC gyms and offered free sessions to UFC fighters because I had some background in MMA as well. So I knew that world. And so I was in Vegas. So I started working with poker players and UFC fighters. And then in both sides, I started to have quite a lot of success. So the poker players were making more money and telling their friends. And I was getting busier and busier. And I started charging. And then it just started multiplying. And then with the UFC fighters, I started working with some guys who became quite famous. And that went well as well. So it just started to build.
I don't want to, pump you up too much, but I think it's not just skill based. You have a mellifluous kind of soothing, confident, relaxed voice.
It's the 15 years of doing this work, Phil.
It's very like
maybe back then I did, but yeah, I mean it's
a good voice it's like.
Do you have any UFC champion clients?
Yeah, so over the years, I worked with Carla Esparza, I worked with Eddie Alvarez, I've worked with TJ Dillashaw, and like loads of people. They're the ones who've given me testimonials, and then others over the years as well. So I worked sort of high level UFC clients, and then in poker, I
can imagine. I mean, as I'm a very big UFC fan, man. I can imagine there's mental stuff about that. It's got to be pretty. People are going to be so different in how they deal with it. But like the getting into a cage with someone where you can get your arms broken, you can get choked unconscious. Like, I don't know. Talk a little bit more about that. I mean, that's curious to me. Like, I obviously don't have to be, of course, not specific, but like, what kind of holdbacks are there or whatever?
Did you just show up to the gym, by the way, Elliot Roe? Did you say, hey, the fighters train here? I'll just physically go there and just hang out and have coffee? Is that how it started with that?
So I had a bit of a different situation. In my early 20s, I used to compete in MMA in England.
No,
so
you did?
I used to fight, and only an amateur.
But still, that's
yeah. So it was like a fun background story. And I'd competed, and I used to have an issue where I would fight in a tournament, and I wouldn't be, if I won the first fight, I would be so amped up, I'd be exhausted and couldn't calm myself down in between the fights. So I was really aware of how important mindset was, because mindset was an issue while I was fighting. And it was something that during those years, I didn't know how to overcome. So because of that, I was like, I know there is an edge if I can help people with their mindset when they step in the cage. So I was very convinced that with the work I was doing, I would be able to improve their performance. One of the guys I'd fought was like relatively well known. So I fought a guy in Europe called Paul Daly, in the amateur scene. And that gave me credibility, when I went to the UFC gyms, because he was quite famous. He sort of got into the UFC and he was sort of quite well known. So I could go to the UFC gyms and say, hey, this is my background. These are the people I trained with in the UK. I have an understanding of this industry. And I'm now doing hypnotherapy, and I'd like to offer free sessions and just see what you think. So I just, as I say, I got fortunate. I spoke to some people. It went well. And then from there, it just started growing and growing. And then
when you were honing your skills, did you get those skills from books or YouTube videos or professionals
sorry, for hypnotherapy?
Yeah, to learn how to hypnotize.
Yeah, so I went on a course to become a hypnotherapist. I completed that course, and then after that, what I realized, which I think is a life hack for so many industries that people don't think about, is when I would read a book on hypnotherapy that I liked, I would reach out to the author of the book and see if I could buy training from them. If you reach out to authors, in a lot of industries, authors are actually really happy to hear from you, and they're not selling as many books as you think they might be selling. So if you reach out to the author of a book and you say, hey, I really enjoyed your book. Can I buy a few hours of your time because I want to, dig into this particular area? They will actually do that. So what I did is I got myself qualified, and then with the books I liked, I reached out to the authors and then got one-to-one training with different authors in the industry. And then the other thing I was doing to try and refine my skills, as I said, I was working with poker players for free and started working with UFC fighters for free, just trying to get in huge numbers of reps. So a lot of people that go into coaching and they start charging high prices right away, and they're doing very small number of reps, and they try and get lucky to have a client that will work with them. And I did it exactly the opposite way. I mean, some years early on, I was doing like 50 hours a week of coaching sessions. So I've done over 17,000 hours of sessions now.
Oh, there was a lot of intelligent design behind what you were doing.
Yeah. So I just wanted to be extremely good at this. And that wasn't sustainable. Those
and a lot of people, but a lot of people would take, no one has any idea who you are, but free sessions, like, why not?
I mean, why not give it a try? Yeah. And then, as I say, it became a bit more expensive, and now I charge quite a lot.
Well, yeah. Then once you have a lot of demand with new people, you start charging, and
and it comes down to a lot. I mean, in poker, it's some ludicrous number now. I think my clients have made, just the tournament side, it's over $250 million. I'm pretty close. I'm pretty sure it's close to 500 million, with everything and everyone, if everyone was public about working with me. And, that's insane in poker, the sort of the level of results people have had.
What are things that is common for fighters to be dealing with?
Well, obviously there's the anxiety.
Yeah.
One of the biggest things you would see with UFC fighters, and again myself, that I felt this when I was fighting, is the way that you can perform in sparring and in the gym versus how you perform in the cage.
Yeah.
Or in my case, it was amateurs, it was on mats. And there's usually a lot that, for most fighters, there's a big differential between those two. So it's understanding where the self-sabotage is coming back. Is that just anxiety? Or sometimes there can even be a level of self-sabotage where they're scared of or uncomfortable winning a fight because they're going to progress and they don't believe they can win at the next level. So almost like stopping themselves reaching the highest leagues or the highest level, or fighting against people they don't believe they can truly beat. So they sort of hold back their performance. So that's certainly one of the things that I've seen from a number of fighters over the years, is like this putting a brake on how they can show up, controlling their emotions in the cage, controlling anxiety during the rounds. So
it's actually kind of a lot of the same principles, really.
It's actually the same for everything.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have
like
almost
performing under pressure,
Yeah.
for example, is a big one. Like sort of, whatever that pressure is, it's different for fighting a little bit than poker, but it's kind of the same concept.
And actually, it's quite good. I don't know if you'll remember from our sessions, Brian, but a lot of what we'll do as we're visualizing the tournament is it not going perfectly. So, hey, you're chip leading, you're on the final table. Okay, bad beat. You're now 5.
Yeah,
Right,
I remember a little of that.
So sort of breaking through this, how do we overcome the disappointment and the reality of the going back and forth? And when I'm working with a UFC fighter, I'm not having them visualize walk in the cage, throw a punch, knock out your opponent. I'm having them visualize they have you in the mount. And it's the staying calm, it's the working through the progressions, getting to the next, getting themselves up. It's this overcoming adversity and staying calm in those moments.
Or like you're in the third round, but it's like your cardio's still there because you put in the work. You're not getting tired, Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine for fighting, it's tougher, right? Those guys have to make decisions kind of like instinctively on the fly, whereas in poker, you always have 10 or 20 seconds.
Yeah, you got a little bit more time in poker.
Yeah.
But again, it's shaping it that it doesn't need to be a panic response. You've done your training. You're just going into automatic. You're going into your flow. So again, so much of it's the same. Like whether I'm working with a trader, CEO of a company, poker player, it's fear of failure, fear of success, self-sabotage, anxiety issues, performing under pressure. And humans are humans, and that's why I can work in so many industries. I don't necessarily need to know much about the sport or the profession. It's just understanding that performing under pressure creates stress for humans. And if we can reduce that stress, they're likely to perform better and make more money or whatever it might be.
When Elliot Roe needs Elliot Roe coaching or whatever, do you go to your own work or do you find somebody else, or are you able to really identify, let's say there's something inefficient and you're like, wow, I really got to know. Is it effortless for you, or do you go to the same struggles?
I have to go to somebody else.
You go to somebody else. Are they?
Yeah, always.
Because you been hypnotized in your life? You did. You were talking about the child.
Yeah. But like all the time, like, I mean, I do this work. I'm pretty obsessive about self-development. I see lots of different coaches because I believe we can't see our own blind spots.
Right. Yeah.
And just because I'm in the industry, like I can't do this to me because I'm hiding my own insecurities, my own blind spots, because they're blind spots. So you need a third party to talk you through that and work you through it.
Yeah, I could chime in and just sort of both to explain, but also it's kind of like giving props to Elliot on sort of what the secret sauce of it is, because, Elliot just described, right, the process and how it's applicable on all these, different modalities sort of, or areas. But the thing is, the kind of secret sauce is like the session usually goes like a normal session, not like the first one, but it's like, oh, hey, it's the session. You actually talk for half of the time or even more. So, and then, you're talking through just a lot of things. So he's catching up, getting to know what's going on, starting out asking questions about whatever maybe specific thing, tournament series coming up, so that during the hypnotherapy thing, it's like almost like he can like lead you to the right places and ask the right questions, right? Because he's like figuring out maybe what's holding you back and how to work through it. So it is something, there is like a very personalized element of it still, right? Which, to go to what you just said, Elliot, which is why it's hard to do for yourself, because you almost need the outside third party looking at you, because it's very hard for us to like, maybe if you did LSD, you could just all of a sudden be like, oh yeah, like this is what's holding me back right now. Cause you're just thinking almost like you're viewing yourself like the third party, right? That's one of the ideas behind hallucinogenics, but you're not doing that on a daily basis, and you need that other person to do that for
To
you.
walk you through. Yeah, and it is that, like, if you look in at another couple, you can see what the husband and wife are doing wrong. It's very easy to see it. If you are the husband and wife, it's hard for you to see,
Yeah.
and it's the same for everything. And even with high performance, there are often really obvious changes for a client. There's always low hanging fruit to help clients, and these are all highly
I have
intelligent.
a lot of low hanging fruit right here.
Yeah, and you're an intelligent, competent person, but there's still going to be something that a third party can say, like, Phil, seriously, you're doing that? Like, you can make an extra X amount of money a year just with this small change, but you're hiding it from yourself, as I'm hiding it from myself, as Brian is from him. And that's why using the third party is so important. Obviously, you can progress reading books and meditating. Right. It's just much faster doing it this way. And again, I think where I'm fortunate is I have so many thousands of hours of working with high performers in different industries that there's just a level of pattern recognition that comes when I've heard the same thing over and over and over again. I'm just listening out for what shouts to me during a conversation or a session.
God, I would love to be able to splinter the universe into 2 chapters. One is where Elliot Roe never coached any of these high stakes players, and they didn't get coaching from anywhere. What they're, let's say, give them 5 years. Now they win, let's say, 300 million. And then the other universe where they're helping themselves with coaching and you're helping them, et cetera. Like, I wonder if they've collectively upped their earn by, 3, 13 or 30%, like, or maybe 300%, for some.
Yeah. I mean, you just never know. I mean, obviously, hopefully it wouldn't be $1 billion that they made.
Poker's maybe too small in the economy.
But yeah, it's one of those things where you can just never know what life would have been.
But
like,
you can feel it when I get more tuned in, or when I see Rast more tuned in. Like when
there's a shift. I mean, I've just seen it over and over again in these stories, and the way things have shifted, certainly for some people I've worked with, as they've overcome a specific issue, and then their confidence in the way that they play is just different. And it feels like there's a new person at the table, and and also it's when their friends and family mention it as well. So it's not just the client saying that they're feeling different, but it's like, hey, my friends are telling me something's changed, and people can feel that shift in energy. And as I say, it's led to some pretty extreme results over the years.
I definitely told a lot of people about Elliot, and I'm sure, and I know at least some of them came as clients. It's funny. I actually the specific thing, which is people performing under pressure. Definitely a lot more people should do it because I think it's one of the biggest problems, like I'd say the population has at large is, and I don't know, I tell myself this story, I believe it to be true. Maybe it's a placebo effect, or maybe it's accurate self-analysis. I feel like I'm one of these weird people who's almost the opposite, where in my career, I performed the best when I'm under pressure, and I almost need that, which is also part of the reason why focus is my biggest problem, because a lot of the times when there isn't pressure, I just don't feel the need to be there 100%. But it's a huge leak. Like, as you go either monster cash game or whatever it is for you, where now someone's jumping up and playing like much bigger than normal, or you get deep in a tournament down to a final table, dude, there's all it's so common for people to collapse, just make huge errors.
I think there's only a small percentage of the field in tournaments who are actually capable of winning. Like, I think there's so much self-sabotage. So many players have zero shot. Like, I've had a large number of players over the years come to me and say that they basically collapse as soon as the cameras are on them.
It's interesting because you're talking about self-sabotage, Elliot, because when I self-sabotage, and sometimes when it happens, I go, no. It's similar to like when you lock keys in the car, you can see as the doors close, you're like, well, there's the keys. I don't have to lock. Well, nope. It looks like I'm going to lock up. It's too late now. But it feels like you had that pregnant 2 seconds to stop the keys getting locked in there. And in poker, sometimes I'm like, well, this would be self-sabotage. I see it, and then I'm still a part of it as it's. I'm like, wait, you're looking at it. You don't have to do it now.
Camera's on. This hand is recorded. Potentially my backers are going to see it. That just, and the confidence in order to make the play that you think is right. I mean, it can be difficult for a lot of people. I don't know. I mean, you know better than me, I'm sure, what's holding most people back.
Well,
one
okay,
of the
so
most interesting.
if you see the self-sabotage, what can that person do in that 2-second pregnant thing to like add one?
Wait, hold on.
Well, there's two.
Yeah.
So first I'll hit Brian's thing with the TV. With the cameras, the most interesting one that I've seen over and over again is the players who struggle with it the most are the ones who are most judgmental when they're watching TV shows. So the guys who are at home saying that guy's
Makes
terrible, he's awful, he's the worst. Those guys, when they end up on camera themselves, they're the ones who have the biggest issues because they're worried that people are going to do what they do.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that's a theme that I've seen over the years, and it just destroys your chances in a World Series of Poker event or something where the final table is going to be televised. Like those guys collapse, and it's really important work for them to do. And then Phil, on your side, you were describing the self-sabotage. The problem is the program's already running at that point, so they're in some automated program and it's just running, and they're just on the roller coaster and it's going. So the ideal is doing this kind of work to stop the program beforehand, so we don't even want to
be on the roller coaster.
So it's like we need to turn the roller coaster off and work through those memories and this, whatever it might be. So again, the fear of failure, fear of success, some people, they don't believe they deserve the money. And as they get close to life-changing money, they terminate it because they're just so terrified about what it will mean for their life if they get rich.
It's funny because in poker, part of the reason why I love it so much is I feel like I'm helping myself arrive at a more a more balanced place of equanimity, more Buddhist, more like peaceful with it trains me to be kind of, I don't know, thoughtful and not results oriented and just in the moment. And it's like a weird thing because it's a lot of great, you don't know really exactly if you're doing
it's highly emotional. Yeah. It's a lot of pressure because it's money. It brings up all of these emotions for players. And another one that I found interesting, speaking to businessmen over the year who play high stakes poker, and some of them know they're not winning in the games, but let's say the emotional control and the lessons I've learned for poker have been worth so much money in my business that it's worth me playing poker to sharpen these skills, because the poker pros think they're winning the money off me, which, okay, they're winning the money at the table, but I'm making so much more money in business because of the lessons I'm learning that it's worth the investment of losing money at the poker table and trying to improve.
That's a good,
it's funny. I'm just going to sidetrack off of one of the things you just said, maybe in order to almost give a lesson, because I feel like, especially as I wasn't like 22 years old or whatever, the older I got in poker, it's the more I've always been a person who's kind of respected my opponents like a decent amount. I also understand there's a really big difference between how everybody plays day to day. Are they on the A, B, or C game? How often are they on those games? Like some guys who might be actually great players when they're on their A or B game, but just like part of the reason why they might not be is they're just not on that game as often as they should be. All kinds of things. Also, you're watching someone on TV, you don't know them, you don't play with them all the time. You see them make one hand. Maybe it is an error, but like maybe for whatever reason they had a brain fart, or still like if you averaged in over 10,000 hands, they're actually playing fine or good. And so I just think, and I guess this is an instruction, because beyond just, oh, hey, don't be judgmental with people, because for the reasons Elliot said, maybe it'll make you better at dealing with pressure. It also kind of like doesn't make sense in general to be that way. And, I feel like it's almost like a Bayesian process of, sure, maybe you can at some point form reads and judgments, but it should be over time with like increasing data in order to back up like the way that you feel about it, and not just being too quick to arrive there. And if anything, that ends up holding you back from accurately estimating the EV in the situation. But
yeah, I mean, I always find it interesting when, you'll get a mediocre recreational player criticizing a world-class player about how they're playing on TV, whilst they can see the cards. And it's and as you say, it's just not, it's not looking at that person in their entirety. It's an individual hand. But as I say, those people get so unbelievably stressed when they get on their first TV table. And I've just seen it played out a lot.
It's funny because thinking about leaks, I realized one of my weirdest it's so tiny, but it's real. It's about, you can calculate it's what is we're playing stand-up game. You got to get 3 buttons. I'll win if the pot is over, like 100 big blinds, or if it's like a big pot, oftentimes, I would say like over 30% of the time, as I pull in the pot, I'm so relieved that that pot is over and that I won the pot that I forget you have to place your stand-up button in front of you, a disc or something before you look at your next hand. And I'm like, the bigger the pot that I just won, the more likely I'm going to forget to put the. So yeah. I was just rambling on a side thing because there's a million things that you can always be improving, but it's nice when there's glaring things. You're like, how, like what? Just because I'm excited that I won a pot, I lose my equanimity for that, 1 minute of where nothing's at risk except all I got to do is put a little checker there and a little, I don't know. It's like simple.
Wait, so Elliot, so there's something you said in the recent conversation that I'm a little bit interested in, and maybe just exploring it further, and maybe just having you talk a little bit more about like what you do and maybe some of the key things you've learned. Like you were talking about how I'm going to try to paraphrase sort of, but basically just that the self-improvement is something you've really focused on, which also just in this conversation, clearly talking about how you got to where you are, I mean, makes a lot of sense. I mean, one of the things that you gave an example was contacting, someone from a really good book that you just read. But like, what are some other things about that? So me and our listeners are like, hey, I would like to improve, the journey of evolution in life. So how do we get there?
The first thing, start with the absolute basics. You should be exercising multiple times a week. I think it's unbelievable to me how many poker players don't look at their physical health at all in any way, with the edge that it can give you in focus. So, I mean, I use a personal trainer multiple times a week. I have it booked in. They're locked into my week so that I never miss it. So the sort of the physical training side, my sleep, I make sure that I'm going to bed at the same time every night. I wake up at the same time every morning. I do a sauna in the morning 5 days a week. I utilize cold plunges. I meditate every day. So there's just a lot of, these are the real basics. But there are so many people who don't hit the absolute basics when it comes to performance. The next level is coaching. Obviously, I'm biased. I'm a coach. I believe it's very important. But because I believe it's very important, I have coaches myself. So I have coaches for my business, my mindset, and then also, things like relationship. I've even had a sleep coach in the past just to try and make sure my sleep's as good as it can possibly be. Because I believe that in any area of your life, if you can pay an expert to save you time, it tends to just be a really strong investment. So I see
I agree with that 100%. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, over my life, it's saved me so much time, and that obviously amplifies your money. So you think about, how much am I losing because of this mistake? And if I can fix the mistake, what does that mean over 1 year, over 2 years, over 5 years? So they're the different areas really. But the biggest thing for so many people is there is an awful lot of low hanging fruit. An exercise I'll have players do is, write down what you believe the best in the world are doing that make them the best in the world. And they'll come up with this list of, this is what the best in the world are doing. They're doing this, 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 and this. So be like, okay, now put a tick and a cross next to the ones that you're doing. And it'd be like, tick, tick, cross, cross, tick, tick, cross. So it's like, okay, this isn't a lack of knowledge because you know what the best are doing. You're choosing not to do it, right? So what can we do to sort of make those crosses ticks, and why are they particularly difficult? So why is there a resistance around this specific thing or this specific thing? And then we dig into those areas. But I think that's just a useful process, to almost give yourself like this third party opinion of your behavior, is write out that list from the best in the world and then do the ticks and crosses, be really honest, and then just start working where you already know where to make those changes.
Yeah. So number one, I guess, is almost even a summary, is sort of, you could group it into health, right? And maybe the mainstays of health would be exercise, sleep, and then if you're going to go to the next one, maybe like nutrition or what you're eating probably. Then after that, like coaching, just like things in general to get outside help from experts, and also like save your time. Which I mean, I think during COVID, like the real depths of COVID, I took like brain health class and stuff. And by the way, the three things I just listed that you said were the three like main topics of the brain health class. It was exercise, sleep, nutrition. The fourth one they kind of threw in was actually meditation. So, and then coaches, I could say beyond having worked with you, but it's like in recent years, it's like, well, I mean, what is something I can do to kind of like keep up with as little time putting into as possible with like, say, like No Limit Hold'em or PLO, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, I maybe my designs aren't so ambitious because I'm not like going and playing the Tritons, but like, how can I be good enough to feel good competing in a lot of other high stakes situations? And it's like, I got like a really good No Limit Hold'em coach and, Nick Petrangelo and a PLO coach, Dylan
Yeah.
Wiseman, who are both guys who have had a
Really
ton of
strong.
success, but also like break down the game, a lot of like GTO theory based stuff, which is going to be where I'm like a little bit weaker in order, so how can I incorporate that? Because like the exploit side, I've already been doing for 20 years, learning some of the theory better and then boom. But anyway, whatever. So yeah, both the
But like
goals
I
I
said,
see.
there's so many
Yeah.
people who don't want to do that work.
Yeah.
I just find it incredible.
I want to interject something that I didn't really know this till I was about 25 or something. And I was stunned to realize how really true it is, which is I always thought, oh, you got to figure it out. You got to figure it out. You got to do it yourself. You got to do it yourself. And then one day I like really needed help and I couldn't figure it out. So I asked and I was stunned how easy it came. And then I realized very quickly, oh my God, the whole world is a crucible of people that will just, that you don't need, that people want to help people. It's a natural that's why humans have ended up being apex predators on Earth, is because we built society based on I can help there. Or a lot of young people might not know, but anything you're struggling with, nearly anything, almost anyone who can help you will often help you for free. They'll just say, here's what I think. That, like, to me, I don't know, that was like a big threshold thing that I had to crack at 20, 25, somewhere in there. I was like, wow, the world's just ready to help you. Whatever you want to do, something you want to get into race cars or whatever it is, you just go. Like how you went to the MMA and you're like hanging out. You're like, I'll help, and then one thing leads to another. Yeah, I don't know. That's a big hack.
Yeah,
right
it is
there.
talking to people, and as you said, lots of people are open. Lots of people want to help, but it's putting yourself out there and asking for it, and also accepting that it is sometimes a leap to put yourself out there and ask, and that's the boundary you have to step over. And then back to sort of the health and fitness side and these pieces where it really stands out, I think. Let's say if you go to the World Series this year and there's a 50K running and there's a 1500 running, times looking at the people, you can see whether they're playing the 50K or if they're playing the 1500.
Yeah.
On the shape they're in, and that's just how it is. The guys look like professional athletes a lot. They're taking it seriously. You can see that they're working on themselves. And, it's just copy people who are the most successful, and generally you'll do better.
So so we got health, and then what's a third one that we can add after the health, and then like getting help from people, whether it's a trainer.
So, really, I think that the next stage past all of it is quality of life. And ironically, I think people are happiest when in some way they are giving back, like you were saying, Phil. Because obviously we're talking about high performance here, but if we talk about someone actually truly enjoying their life and feeling satisfied, I think that giving back is something that's actually very important. That's certainly something, I enjoy training the coaches I'm training. I enjoy, helping people evolve, helping people improve. And when I see people hit the extreme levels of wealth where more money won't make a difference, in nearly all cases where they find happiness and satisfaction is that giving back in some way.
And also working towards an unfinishable, like studying something that's you can never get to the end of, or working on a project that's bigger than you. That stuff, man, the richest people that I know that have infinite money, they're plugged in the same as when they were worth semi-infinite or no infinite money. Like they just have to be productive and do things. Like that mindset is really interesting. It's like most successful super rich people don't have any desire to sit around and do nothing. And
I find it funny.
They want to work on
the journey is never ending. There is no happy ever after. And anyone who reaches the stage of having the sit on a beach forever money isn't someone who wants to sit on a beach forever doing nothing. Like it'd be absolutely miserable for them to go and sit on a beach with a book forever, because their whole reason they've been successful is because that's not who they are.
Right.
So I don't think there's ever, for the sort of people who've reached the ultra success, yeah, it's more of the same, as I say, and the helping others. Typically, it seems to move in that direction for most
Rast,
people.
can you help me for a second? Every once in a while, you take a sip from your coffee cup and the letter K is there. Is K for king, or did it come from something else?
You
Is it
know,
you
I
don't
don't
know
know.
that you're just eating the king from the king's mug because you're King Rast? I just noticed there's a K on it. No
Yeah,
correlation. It's
I think
random. The
maybe
king is.
Juliana bought that coffee mug because K was for Krishna, I think, but
Oh,
I'm not sure. But
okay.
yeah.
I like how you just, it's the one that you're using, K for king,
Wait, so Phil, now would be a good time. If you on your list,
Oh,
do you
let's
have
see.
some of your questions?
Oh yeah. Okay, I'm curious. Let's say there's a fella or a gal, they're done with college, they're in some random job. They're not like, they know it's not their final spot. They don't, but how does your average person who hasn't had the luxury or the joy of discovering what their thing is, where they would do it for free. If somebody
Yeah.
gave them $1 billion, they have to keep doing it. How do people find that thing? Like I got lucky. When I found out you can play games, I was like, wow, that's great. I love games. And games meaning investing and this and betting on things, but it doesn't matter if it's poker or prediction market, just betting,
Yeah.
predicting the future. I love that. That's like my gig. But what about the person who is looking for their adrenaline thing, whatever it is? They can't, how does a person find it?
I mean, I think the best thing to do is just get around as many people as possible. Go to networking events, meet as many new people, have as many conversations as you possibly can, and wait until something spikes your interest. If you stay around your friends that you grew up with, it's unlikely that you're going to get the new information. So I think it's the sort of the stepping into a new area, and yeah, really pushing yourself. One of the themes that I've seen, again with successful people, is very few of them stayed in their hometown. There seems to be this shift. When someone leaves their hometown, they go to a big city. It's as if infinite opportunities then start to open up, and they start seeing the world in a different way. And if they stay in, it's the sort of the hometown quarterback story. The quarterback at the high school stays in the hometown, and they're still talking about the football matches they had. They haven't really progressed past that. And I think that's something that is like getting out in the world, seeing as many places, speaking to as many people, and then just seeing what your subconscious starts to pull you towards.
So the common thread between people that have found their thing and are highly successful is that the common thread between these people is that they're just very, like, what is it? Why is it?
I think that's like it's a being willing to explore and then follow your instincts once you have enough information. But I do think you need to be putting yourself in new environments if you're completely lost. So I think it's quite hard to. I mean, you might find information on the internet that solves your issue, but I think real life speaking to people in different industries and getting that information is sort of, for me, certainly that's a connecting way of doing it.
Yep. And also, guys, if anyone at home is watching this and they're procrastinating, remember the hack is to just start. Whatever the other thing is, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, the momentum of that thing, like the whole gym thing, the whole hack to the gym, it's
Walking through
just
the door.
physically getting yourself into the building. Even if you say, I'll only be there for 5 minutes, you're never there you're happy when you get there. And now you do an hour and a half because you're happy. But it's all about that. And also another thing that I've learned, I don't know how true this is for other people. Anytime you're about to do something that you know you want to do and you should do, and it's on your list to do and all that other stuff, and you have a little feeling of, hey, you have like maybe 20 seconds or a minute or whatever in that moment where you're feeling it, start. That's like key, because that little waft of power might only last a minute for you or 2 minutes. So while it's there fresh, just cut up the apple into small pieces and start.
Is the saying perfection is the enemy of progress or something like that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, because sometimes it's just do it and stop obsessing over. I mean, it depends on exactly what it is. But I mean, one question sort of along the lines of exactly what we're saying is, what are other ways, Elliot, you found through kind of your experiences in life coaching people, how we've talked about a few, but other ways can someone be held accountable towards meeting their goals or progress?
I mean, with the holding accountable, obviously using third parties.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a coach; it can be friends. But third
Like
parties,
a lot of people use that like bets.
yeah,
I've
bets.
seen
I
plenty
mean,
like weight loss bets or whatever, but yeah, okay.
and it does work.
Yeah.
It keeps you motivated. One of the things you were saying there with the not giving 100%, which I think is is a really interesting one to dig into is I've seen a lot of people over the years not give 100% in their poker or in their business or whatever it might be because it protects their ego because they know they're not giving 100%. So they'll give 80%. Perhaps they won't be fully focused when they're playing, or they won't do the study they should be doing. But they'll save some level of excuse where they'll be able to tell themselves, if I'd given 100%, I would have been successful, but I know I gave 80. And so many people trap themselves with this ego defense.
I remember when I was in college, anything that was engineering or math or all that stuff, I knew how much time I would have to devote to get whatever grade I wanted. That might mean an all night, but night before I could get a B plus. That might mean very little and I could get a higher grade or whatever. But I knew how much time. And then in English lit, it was so frustrating because I realized, well, no matter how much time, like I am in the vagaries of being judged by a person who I think I could beat in an IQ test. Not that that's what we're going for, but I just felt so devastated. Sometimes I would give my best result and I would get like a B minus. And then I just remember thinking, to heck with this. I'm just going to get whatever GPA I get from the math and tech side and not all the subjective grading stuff. I'm just going to not give any energy and get C's. I didn't even care. Like that was how and whatever, it worked out, but it wasn't the ideal path to just be like, well, I'm not going to put any energy into this if it's being graded subjectively by someone who I think,
Yeah. And that's like, you didn't like the thought of giving 100% and then being told you still got a C.
Correct.
So if you put in a low effort, so if you put in a low effort and get a C, you're good with it. But if you had put your ego on the line and given 100%, and you still got a C, it would have really hurt. So that's like the perfect description of that ego protection, because you would have got a higher grade more likely than not.
Correct.
If you put those efforts in,
or something.
but your ego would have been less safe.
This exact concept also, I mean, like I'm around the fight scene. Like I train with someone who trains UFC fighters. I know UFC fighters. So this idea plays out like with the self-sabotage, I think a bit in the fight game where people are like this, you could say year round, but then especially once it's like a fight's booked and they have 3 or 4 months, it's like, how seriously are you taking your camp? Like are you like doing your weight? Like people that sometimes miss weight, it's because during camp, they cheat and this, and then they just couldn't cut enough water weight in the last week, or they were going out and drinking or certain things. And a whole big reason is this idea that, well, if I didn't give 100%, then if I lose the fight, I can kind of like always have that reason. Where if I do 100% and lose, then that's like scary.
I'm pretty sure there was a John Jones video where he spoke about the partying so that he had an excuse if he lost because of all the pressure.
That's like the most famous example, obviously. He also didn't lose.
Yeah, he never lost anyway. But imagine, Brian. Imagine how he would have shown up if he hadn't been drinking the weekend before.
Hey, Elliot, do you have children? And if you do have kids, are they like superhuman kids because their dad is just like getting their mindset perfect?
I think everyone believes their kids are superhuman. So they're awesome with the mindset stuff. Sometimes they teach me. But we try and not pressure them to do specific things. We want them to find their own path. And obviously, a lot of the work I do ends up being people talking about how their parents messed them up. So you feel like it's impossible to do it perfectly because people will always, they'll always find something. They'll be talking to their therapist in 20 years about something I did wrong. But one of the quotes I'd heard from a friend that I think is really been a way we brought up our children is telling them that it doesn't matter how bad they are, we won't love them any less, but also it doesn't matter how good they are, we won't love them anymore. So it doesn't matter if you get a gold medal. I don't care if you get an A. You're not going to get my love from an A. My love is just there. And if you do something wrong, it doesn't go away. But also if you do something right, you don't get more love.
I remember my sister's kids, my sister and her husband are brainiacs with brainiac kids, but I was impressed that they always told their kids, hey, the grades are not important. That's somebody else giving it. What's important is you're getting the most out of this experience that you can get. And meanwhile, 4 point, not like they're like super brainiac kids because there's no pressure to like get a grade. The pressure is to just enjoy the process of getting better, improving, learning the stuff that
And
it
that's
works.
exactly what we've found with our kids' success. They've been successful so far at school and things. And same thing, without that pressure, it feels like there's less stress of them, and then they're able to perform at a higher level, which, is the same as I see with my clients as well. Without the pressure on, everyone's in a flow state easier, and then they get better results.
That's wild. And your whole family's in the UK?
The rest of my family's in the UK, yeah. So I live over here, and yeah, my parents and things. And so,
Were you the
Wow,
youngest?
I really like that thing that you said. I mean, I feel like telling your kids that, because I think it's something where if that goes unsaid, it strikes me as being very easy for it not to feel that way.
what children
Even if you don't really feel that way with your kids, I mean, obviously there are parents that probably do feel that way, but even if you don't, just the whole idea of where, you correct them when things go badly and then like reward them when
applaud
things
them.
go well. So
Yeah.
it's like, even if you do love them the same, they might not even know it because it doesn't feel that way to them. So telling them is so important, because you're at least there still might be a disconnect, but at least now you're making it clear to them about how you're saying you feel, which might mean a lot. So
Well,
it's cool.
I honestly, I say that on so many podcasts just because I just hope some other parents will pick it up. Like,
Yeah,
I love that.
I
That's
genuinely
my favorite.
think it's,
That's like that nugget is such a good nugget because it's so compactual and so few words, massive idea.
and honestly, I think could be life-changing for a lot of kids if they heard that and they believed it. Because, I'm working with a lot of high performers. Some of those high performers are stuck on, they need to be perfect to be loved, or they need the success to have value. And again, that creates that ultra high pressure, and that ultra high pressure makes it harder for them to reach the peak or win the tournament, because suddenly it's life and death, and it doesn't need to be life and death. You're still good enough even if you don't win the tournament. And that means you can play better and you're more likely to win the tournament.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm.
We've kind of hit everything on my list. And how many kids do you have, by the way?
I've got twins. So I've got
Twins?
2 kids, 11-year-old twins. Yeah.
And I'm going to guess this is just and then Rast, we could even edit this out. It's such a dumb guess, but like, I'm going to guess that you were one of 4 kids and the third of the 4.
Well, let's see what Brian says.
Well, like, wow. Okay. I'm going to go middle of 3.
I'm the oldest of 2.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, that's okay, Phil. So
I'm the youngest
what
of
was
6.
your,
I'm the youngest of 6, but I always wondered, like, because you hear things when you're 14 to 21.
I'm the oldest of 2 as well. But
oldest of 2, super achievers.
wait, so Phil, where did that come from? I'm just curious. Like,
because
what was
when a long time ago, like in the college days, people would always just instantly predict, oh, you're the youngest of 5, right? Or I'd be like, you're in a big family, you're the youngest. That's why you're so always trying to get attention and stuff. And I guess that's the youngest one is the one's trying to crave attention, and so I thought, oh, you probably had 4 kids and you would like a little, you didn't need attention, but the base solid normal and is in the middle, and then the achievers are like, the ones who the parents, oh, I hope they're a doctor. They're more likely to go into, like, the parents is the top, So yeah, I don't know. Just a random, I don't know. I ran out of questions, man. Elliot, it's very good chatting with you, Rast. What else while we got him here? He's like, it's expensive to get Elliot time. We have him here.
Well, yeah, I mean, Elliot, why don't you tell if there's anything that, either you're involved with or like people want lessons from you, or the people that work from you, like how can people do this or check it out? Or I know you do maybe a Prime Mind where you have an app, like there's all kinds of stuff. So
so I obviously do the coaching, ElliotRoe.com, or you can find me on Twitter or Instagram. And then you can apply for coaching there, and we can see if I'll be a good fit, or if it's for one of the coaches. I've got 7 coaches who work for me at different price points. Typically, when it comes to working with me, it is people who are trying to reach, become the top in the world in their industry. So it doesn't work for everybody, but we've got coaches who can help anyone who I've trained, who can help you reach those next levels. I have an app called Primed Mind that you can download on the the iPhone or Google Play. That's hypnotherapy. There's about 300 or 400 hypnotherapy audios for different activities, from poker to sleep to
Is
confidence.
Prime's Mind, is it a monthly subscription or
So
one
it's a monthly
fee only, or-
subscription. I think you can download it, and I think there's about 40 audios on there that are just free. You can download it and use them, and then there's more if you pay the monthly subscription. Yeah, so I mean, really, they're the main ways of working with me. Yeah, and if it's of interest, as I say, I think it's useful for people to dig in and work through these issues. And be it with me or my team or just with someone else, I genuinely believe, coaching is a way to save yourself time and energy. If you can get the information from someone else, if you can get out of your own way, typically people are more successful and make more money. So whether it's with us or someone else, I recommend that's something that the listeners really dig into.
Yeah. And guys, for you guys at home, if you had a messed up childhood, you might not need to go down this route, because it might be scary what you learn about what you were thinking when you were in 5th grade. So be mentally ready if you're taking this path.
So this is an emotional process as people work through this. It's not abnormal for people to cry during the sessions. Like that comes up pretty frequently. So if you're looking to dig in and do the deep subconscious work, be aware it's going to bring up difficult issues in some cases, because
Did Rast cry in any of his earlier sessions? You don't have to share. Did you, Rast?
I mean, I
Nothing
think
wrong with crying.
I'm pretty sure I remember. I mean, our sessions were about poker, all our early sessions, and I believe that I didn't cry. I also believe, I don't know. I'm actually, you can be completely honest about this, but I actually think like I didn't really have that much stuff that was holding me back. It was really more about me actually just kind of not being dialed in and focusing, and almost like the invert of most people, I guess you would say, where it's like the pressure kicks up and they start having a problem. And for me, it's almost like if I'm not feeling any pressure, I'm not dialed in. So I would
definitely have been one of the
Brian. Just, you're okay with me?
Sure. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah, in Brian's case, the situation there was he wasn't self-sabotaging so much as we were looking to improve the focus and remove the distractions and bring him back in. So whereas some people, these big self-sabotages are kicking in, the anxiety, that's where those big emotional memories are coming up for people. In Brian's case, we're looking to get into this sort of higher self, A-game play, extreme focus for the high pressure situations, and also not the high pressure, but the low pressure situations where the distraction might have got in the way and lost some of the EV that was available. So that was a lot of the work that we've done over the years.
If I take any of this therapy, I'm definitely going to need a box of Kleenexes nearby because I'm a mess. But previous to me staying awake for 5 days playing cards, I cried maybe once a year or two, or in private, of course. And then after that experience, I was like faucet. I was crying all the time, happy things, sad things, whatever. It went from, I don't know, maybe twice a day down to once a week. Then probably,
you're talking about your Guinness session, right?
Every 2 weeks. Yeah. Like,
dude, it wasn't even that. How about this? Phil and I have played racquetball on and off over the, like, very infrequently. It was more infrequent the longer you go back, because eventually, you go back far enough, we were living kind of in the same apartment unit. We played many, many sessions of racquetball, and there's only one time Phil has ever beat me. It was like right after his Guinness session, and he was like, I'm going to beat you today. And it's like the only time he ever said it, and he beat me. It was crazy.
But it was not only did it was the first time I said, I'm going to beat you today.
Yeah.
But after we played the first game, which I lost, I saw the future and I was like, oh my Lord, I'm going to win the next game. I marked the day and now I'm going to tell you the game. And this is after 20 years of never beating them. And it was, I think what actually happened is if you stay awake for 5 days and then you sleep for 5-6 days to catch up, everything seems like,
it's like wow, the factory reset has happened.
The factory reset, the ball, reset. I watched the ball move around. I was like, is this a movie? Is this like in those Kung Fu movies where the ball's moving? So I felt like I had for 4 years to get to the ball. It was really like, and my body was like hyped up and like the geometry of everything just settled in. And I definitely improved a lot of parts of my life. But one thing that did change is I cried. I was an emotional,
and it's better out than in. I mean, that really helped you a ton processing and becoming a better person, because a lot of it's trapped. And as you release those emotions and those stresses and those memories, again,
when I watch
you're
like
improving.
Beast Games, I didn't know how good Beast Games was until I started watching it. But like, damn, I'll cry at least every second or third show on season 1. I'm like, oh my God, is this happening? And then like, I'm alone, I'll let it go. And then I just start crying and I'm like, in the tissue, I pause. It's like, It's like, yeah, crying is a good feeling, but I didn't really do it that much previous to that enduro session, which obviously Neurobasilia rewrote something and there was some kind of, yeah. But
Wait, Elliot, so before we let you go, I'm curious. So out of some of these things you've both been involved in and even did, whether it's like fighting, like, are you still a fan of fighting? Do you follow the UFC or MMA in any capacity? And or with poker,
Um,
like, do you play poker or not
So,
really?
so really, I mean, the fighting I'll still watch to some extent, but not as much
Yeah,
as I did in the past.
yeah,
It used to be so I was very connected to all of it. I don't really work much in that world at the moment. It's
yeah.
predominantly the trading and the business and a bit of poker. I'm not doing as much poker even now. It's predominantly CEOs of companies and a lot of traders. Yeah, and I don't play poker badly, to be absolutely honest.
Yeah.
If you see me at a table sit down, I play for fun every now and again while I'm in Vegas. But I live up a mountain in Utah. It's it's, it's not somewhere where I'm going to get
Yeah.
a lot of hours in at the table. Yeah, so I mean, my hobbies are like I work out, I hike, I ski, I do a lot of personal
Okay, a lot
development,
of physical
hang out with my
stuff.
family. So yeah, I'm at that sort of stage, but I just feel fortunate. I've been able to be in a lot of different stories, in different people's lives as they've reached the top in different industries. So the most fun part of my job is, as you say, it might be someone winning a major poker tournament or someone winning a UFC belt or people at the Olympics or people selling companies or IPOing companies. And I've just been really, really fortunate to have experienced all of these different things in life, but as a bit of a bystander, but still somewhat involved. So it's
Yeah, vicariously, living
vicariously, honestly,
vicariously
it's so
through the
fun.
other. Okay, so now I have a question. It's a little bit selfish, I guess, but also for people out there, I'm sure there are people watching that probably do this as well. Maybe you too, Phil. So you're saying you're working with a lot of traders now.
Hmm.
You know, what are some of the things that hold back somebody from trading well? Again, if maybe obviously there's going to be some of the same stuff, but maybe more specifically, like what do traders not doing and what can a trader do to be better? Like some of the things you've learned from working with traders.
I mean, the most obvious one is overtrading,
Yeah.
being a major issue. So many traders, overtrade themselves into losses when they get emotional, and will refuse to have red days. Refuse to have losing days, and that's a big issue, because they end up making too many trades, trying to win their money back, and yeah, it just shows up again and again and again, and it's typically around this: I'm not enough unless I'm winning. And then if we trace that back, it's all the way back to those parents telling these guys
Yeah.
that we'll love you. You need to get the A, or you need to be the winner of the sporting event, or whatever it might be. So almost all of the issues, weirdly, in every industry, almost everything just comes down to self-worth. Am I enough? Am I lovable? And then mistakes happening from the fear of not being enough or not being lovable. And in trading, it is the same thing. I know it's still pretty broad, as I'm describing there, Brian, but it's not dramatically different to what I see in poker or fighting or business or anything else.
Yeah.
Trading is just another way for a human being to test themselves in a high pressure environment. And whatever the weakness of that human being, be it excessive aggression, excessive anxiety, procrastination, because it's a high pressure environment, it's just going to amplify whatever that person's weakness is. In the same way with poker, some people struggle when their aces are cracked, other people don't care. And it's because, poker isn't the issue. You're bringing the issues to the table, and then poker is amplifying those issues. And trading is the same. It's the human that sits to trade. Under pressure, it will just show the weaknesses in that particular human.
It's weird. I feel like I have an issue sometimes with over trading, and listening to you say it, I think it's also, I don't know if like this makes sense, but sometimes it's about maybe some mix of almost like boredom or like feeling the need of like, oh, I'm analyzing things. So I just like
I have to
need
make a
to
trade.
need to
Yeah.
do something today. And then also maybe it's kind of like somewhere it's almost subconscious. It's like not something I'm really thinking about, but it's like latent in that is sort of an idea where like maybe I'm also like if I'm going to analyze myself, I'm like I'm not good enough to have enough information and good enough to be like just making bets every day based on what I know. Like I need to wait for spots that I've identified as being better. And then it's like you kind of forget that and get so wrapped up in analyzing and this and that you just start doing things and don't like, it's almost like I'm not stepping back and being like, just hold on, like wait for a better spot, because it's trading is 24/7. It's not, it's weird for me because it's in some ways there are things that are very similar to poker, but then other things that are very different. Like in poker, I am forced to make a decision at every node every time. And it's like trading, you can actually just kind of sit and wait a lot, and I probably should, but then it's like you kind of get the two mindsets confused. And I don't know, for me, it's like some mix of all that, I guess, is probably why I think I overtrade when I do. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean, when it comes to the trading that way, it's quite funny because if you think about the poker players who are playing too many hands,
Yeah,
it's sort of similar to some extent.
Yeah.
It's like they're at the table, they shouldn't be playing these hands, but the temptation is there. I'm sitting here, I'm
Yeah.
waiting. I'm gonna place
Yeah.
the wrong bet. So it's got some similarities in that side. But I just think it is hard to sit on your hands and wait. The truth is, a lot of the time, people make most of their money in a small number of trades over the entire year. And a lot of the time, they knew that they were the good trades. And unless it's your full-time job, unless you're absolutely living it, for most people, a very small number of very good trades, obviously sometimes they're going to go wrong, but seems to be better than certainly the overtrading. Very few people can overtrade themselves into success.
Yep.
Yeah, the people that are truly, I mean, there might be some amount of luck involved, but the people that are truly really good are the ones that are probably overtrading themselves into success, I mean, like if you're so dialed into the market because of information flow or whatever it is, that you can just be betting and switching positions on a regular basis and you're plus EV, I mean, you're a very small select group of people. That's not very easy at all to do.
There are very, very few of them.
Yeah.
And unless and if you're one of them because you're infinitely rich. And if you're not infinitely rich, you're not one of those guys. It's
and
not
now you have to fight when you're trading. You're fighting quant teams and AI and Claude agents and assimilation of data against you by a team of people that have their PhDs in mathematics.
There's
Phil, I was just reminded this is a very tangential story, but very similar in whatever theme. So I was at the poker table. Right, I'm back. I'm playing the Bobby's Room / Marcus game for the last month, right? And I'm at the poker table with Marcus, who recently, a couple years ago, actually, he became one of the partners at a fund, and they invest in, they have this deal flow. It's on whatever it's called, deal flow, and you find things to invest money in, right? So the guy, ex-CEO, super hyper successful, one of the most intelligent guys for sure, who I have kind of run, when you play nosebleed high stakes poker, you need a lot of money, but the non-poker pros, so to speak, people who are found their way there through other avenues in life are generally mega wealthy. They're the people Phil's talking about, infinite money. Anyway, so, Marcus founded, CEO of multi-billion-dollar company. Yeah. Anyways, and I find personally, he's a very intelligent guy. Anyway, so we're talking, and someone at the table brings up this, Valor Atomics investment that Carrie Katz or this. Marcus isn't saying anything. And at one point, I'm kind of like, hey, well, the person you should ask about these investments is Marcus. And Marcus reminded me while he commented on this, saying he didn't know any of the specifics about this, but just in general, of a concept that I kind of already knew, but I feel like I had forgotten. And I was so nice to be reminded of it. He was like, the deals that end up making it to you are probably not always, but on the whole, quite bad. And he's like, because how do the deals that make it to me, for example, versus him, he's in this huge fund that's getting all this. And by the way, and he's and all the people that work for me and the other partners, they're doing multi-100-page reports with this and that, and, versus people that are vibing it. And if I'm being honest, I'm the guy who's vibing it because I'm I want to invest in nuclear energy. That's the fucking future. Blah, 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 blah. And I'm just God, it's so good to remember that because I'm going to get these deals. And it's I feel like I make a decision, but I just got to remember.
That's the Instagram clip that's going to change lives.
I want to add to that, which is a long time ago, I was trying to be the hub for 5 or 6 smart guys. And I told these guys, if you have any ideas, I'm going to send, if you like a stock, I'm going to tell these other 5 guys, and they're all smarter than me. And it'll pass through a filter there, but also you'll get their ideas. But at some point I realized, oh, wow, ideas that finally, when somebody's raising money for something and they come to you, exactly what Elliot was saying, I'm like, wait, I might be really low on the totem pole. What I started doing was I tried to find people that I realized, wow, this guy has piles and is doing deals and loves what he's doing and can't get enough. It's like the way if Brian and I were given $1 billion by Elon Musk or somebody, we would still need to play cards. It's like a fun game. So I realized what I want to do is work into one of their next deals. And that was like kind of a strategy I was working with. And there were 3 guys I had in mind, and one of them worked. I was like, oh, this thing that you're working on is like that. Oh, you haven't. And I nursed my way into that and got a little teeny, like 2% thing of something that I thought was brilliant. And it was so early on and I realized this is just another project that this guy's doing. What he touches is gold. So I finally realized, don't wait for somebody to say, hey, I got a thing. You want to put money into it, because I get hypnotized by that stuff. You want to be like looking for somebody that's not normally going to ever ask for investors and try and kind of grovel your way in a little. That's kind of some success I've had doing that,
So the real way to wealth.
Right? Grovel your way into a smart guy's next deal. At least, he just prints, oh, this guy prints, let me get in, I don't know. What a great time. Thanks for joining on, Late Reg, the last podcast on earth. Everyone's done it, and now we came to the show.
Yeah, we registered late, because why would you be on time? Yeah, right. Thanks, Elliot. Really appreciate you.